watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. A very exciting day today in Major League Baseball. Trade deadline is officially underway with about 45 minutes left, give or take a few. And it's been a strange day. It's been an exciting day, but it has been a day that has been hard to keep up with. From Juan Soto being dealt to the Padres, to the Padres dealing about 97 prospects in return, all the way to Trey Mancini going to the Astros. Will Smith was officially dealt this morning. Late last night, about an hour and a half after we got off the stream, the Braves were in action, and Alex Anthopoulos is once again at work tonight. We're going to talk about what he could do in a minute, but first I want to talk about last night, because before noon yesterday, the Braves reunited with Adrianza. I apologize. Adrianza. They traded Trey Harris for that. We talked about that last night. Also in that move, Robinson Cano was designated for assignment. They threw, this move threw a lot of people off, but I actually like this move. For one, Robinson Cano was 4 for 26 since joining the Braves. I think he is easily upgradable. No disrespect to him, but at this point in his career, I think that's the case. I also like Adrianza. Even if his stats are bleak this season, this is a depth move. His 179 average and 84 at-bats is not indicative of what he can do. He's not given near the at-bats he was last season due to the DH being added to the National League. But remember how good he can be. He led all pinch hitters with 8 extra base hits and second in RBIs in all the pinch hitters last year with 12. But what about Trey Harris? That's the prospect dealt to land A-Ray. From hitting north of 300 in 2019 to 238 this season, I think the Braves concluded that, frankly, he wasn't the future and was therefore expendable. They had nowhere for him to go. Could they have gotten more for him? Possibly. But to have landed a major player, he would have had to be accompanied by other prospects. I like this depth piece. Depth pieces are needed for a World Series contending team, and I think A-Ray is a good pickup. Possibly, could be a game changer. You never know who's it going to be in the postseason. So I thought this was a good move. I thought it improved the Braves overall, and this is a good trade for both teams. For the Nationals, this is a future outfield possibility. Not that they had anything to lose at that point. And for the Braves, a good depth piece. So what about what else happened? Late last night, there was word about the Braves targeting and later acquiring Robbie Grossman. This isn't a move that is going to light the world on fire. I am aware of that. But it is a solid insurance move in case another move never presents itself. And look at us today. We're still sitting here waiting on something to happen, and we haven't received another outfielder yet. So this was a move that I think was preparing us in case nothing else happened. His 205 average and 2 homers in 2022 don't tell the whole story. First off, it is an off year for him. Just last year, he had 23 homers and hit around 240 last year. But I don't have to go back to last year to find a reason to sign Grossman. I mentioned his 205 average, but versus lefties, he's hitting 364. The problem has been that he has had way more at-bats against righties, 196 versus 77 in that split. Now, I don't think the Braves are done here, but this move does provide some insurance in case AA is put in a position where no move is there for the taking. And, let's just propose that this is the last move that the Braves can make in the outfield. Platooning with Rosario, I think that's going to work. It's a good replacement for Adam Duvall, a solid replacement, though I don't think it will be the last if AA has something to say about it. Again, Grossman's numbers don't jump off the page, but if Eddie can have a better second half, and odds are he will make strides for the better, as he has more at-bats with eyesight, mind you, I think it can work. Very similar to the Duvall-Rosario combination idea. I think Grossman-Rosario could be a similar fit if they are both performing at their height. But I don't think the Braves are done. They weren't last night. Mark Bowman and Jeff Passan late last night tweeted that the Braves were not only in on Jake Odorizzi, but had also thrown out a trade of what it would be. It sent Braves country and the baseball world into a late-night Twitter frenzy. Braves trade left-handed pitcher Will Smith for right-handed pitcher Jake Odorizzi. This became official today. Before we get into the logistics of this, I just wanted to take a second. Will Smith I know a lot of people have given him all kinds of grief this year. I understand it. He's had a little bit of a rough year. Completely understandable as fans to do that. But Will Smith will always be remembered as the guy that had not only finished the year for the Braves on the mound, winning the World Series, but clinched the postseason, clinched the NLDS, clinched the championship series, and later went on to clinch the World Series, all with a 0.000 ERA. And that is something that no one can ever take away from him. So for that, Will, we thank you. And on a personal note, Will was nothing but great to me, so thank you for that. If you haven't seen our interview, I suggest you go check it out. It's a lot of fun. If you're remembering Will Smith today, I suggest you go check it out. It's a pretty good one. So that being said, we have to move on. We have to move forward. Who is this guy, Jake Odorizzi? Let's talk about that for a second. Again, we traded Will Smith for him, so he's got to be pretty good. This is his 10th year in Major League Baseball. Most of the time he spent in Tampa. His 3.75 ERA may make you question him, but he would rank 4th in the Atlanta Braves rotation right now behind Max Fried, Spencer Strider, Kyle Wright, and then Jake Odorizzi. He would be atop Charlie Morton and Ian Anderson. With this addition, many of you have speculated that this is the end, or at least a temporary pause on the Ian Anderson Major League level experiment that we have seen over the past few years. Some of you have suspected that this could be the end of Ian Anderson's tenure with Atlanta. Now, I don't know if that's the case, but the option is there now with the additional insurance of the young pitchers in the minors. Tucker Davidson comes to mind. Kyle Muller, when healthy, comes to mind. There is always the idea of moving Anderson to the pen as well. I don't think starter, personally, I didn't think starter was where the Braves were going to go, but they ended up doing that. They picked up Jake Odorizzi, and, I still think that was a good move. I think it's solid. It does improve the Braves' rotation if he is used. But, this is interesting. In case you're curious, he is finishing a 3-year deal this year. He is a free agent in 2023, but he does have a player option after this year. So let's get to know this guy. What does he throw? He's got 5 pitches primarily: 4-seam fastball, cutter, splitter, slider, and curveball. Not a ton of overpowering stuff. This is a guy that likes to pitch to contact. And, I think ultimately he succeeds by limiting base runners, and he succeeds by limiting barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, and he has a great ability to lead. He's got a great ability to limit hard hit balls. 89th percentile on Baseball Savant, if that tells you anything. I think he's a solid number 4 in the rotation. It's not, the greatest move ever. None of these moves have been something that have, made you jump off the page and said, oh, wow, we got that guy, really? And, that's never really been Alex Anthopoulos' mindset. Last year when we got all those guys that turned out to be, NLCS MVP, World Series MVP, I don't think any of us ever imagined at the trade deadline that would happen. You don't win at the trade deadline. You win in the postseason. The trade deadline is just another step to get there. So with that said, what we're doing at this point is monitoring what's going to happen. We have approximately 39 minutes until the end of the trade deadline. There is still some time after that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause for a few minutes. We're going to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to answer your questions, and we're going to continue to monitor what's going on and what the Braves can do in the future. All right, guys, so here's what we're going to do for the time being. Again, we have about 40 minutes before the trade deadline ends. So for those 40 minutes, I am all yours. I'm going to be answering all the questions you have. If you have a theory out there, if you have an idea of what the Braves should do, could do with who is out there that is left. Ian Happ is still out there. We talked about him extensively last night. That is somebody who I think the Braves could potentially go get, and still may. I think he fits what the Braves need right now. You have an outfielder position that is still open. If you want to put him over Grossman, you can. Over Eddie, you can. If you want to put him at second base, you can do that. That is a good option. Brandon Drury, we talked about him last night. He is off the table. So there's a lot of guys that have been moving around a lot lately. So let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know what you think the Braves are going to do and where you think they're going to go. Jock Peterson has recently come to mind. The Giants seem to be selling as of late. So Jock Peterson could be on the table. Let me know what you think in the comment section. We're going to start it off with Jake Hobby. Good to hear from you, brother. William says, hope we are not done. I hope so too. I don't think they are. I think Alex Anthopoulos has got a plan, and I think he's gonna execute it. I think he's probably not trying to overpay. And I mentioned a few minutes ago that last year's trade deadline, a lot of the moves were made within the last hour. We're talking the moves of Jorge Soler. We're talking the moves of Richard Rodriguez. The moves of most of those guys were dealt within the last hour to 2 hours. So we're still in that time frame. And I think we could see a last-minute move. Even after 6 o'clock, I think we could see a last-minute move. By the way, guys, if you'll do me a favor, like the video so I can get it out there. I can get to more Braves fans. I can get to more baseball fans. Like the video so we can get it out there. A lot to talk about tonight. Really helps me out, and I do appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching as well. Jake Hobby says he wants a reliever. I agree. The guy I wanted that I mentioned was David Robertson. I talked about him last night. He is headed to the Phillies. That was upsetting today. That's the guy that I chose. Anthony Bass is another one of those guys I was eyeballing, and he is now headed to the Blue Jays. So there's a few guys out there still. The big news of the day across baseball is the San Diego Padres. Not only did they pick up Juan Soto, but last night and Josh Bell today. They also got Josh Hader. And when you throw a name like Juan Soto in the mix, especially trading across the country like that, and you throw a guy like that in the mix, you tend to forget about every other trade going on. But the Padres are going all out. I told you a while back that I thought that could happen. And, they're competing with a team named the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're in an arms race. They're in a race for that division, and they're going for it. They're in the top 5 payrolls across Major League Baseball, and they don't mind spending money. They've proven that before. They're proving it right now, and they're eating Eric Hosmer's contract. I believe he's headed now to the Boston Red Sox after turning down his initial trade to the Nationals. He's now headed to the Red Sox, and the Padres are eating his salary. So they are going for it. And, they got Hader yesterday, and Hader's had a little bit of a down year, to say the least, a 4 ERA right now. I think everybody would like to get Hader, and they went and got him. So I think that's that says something. I thought was gonna be their biggest move of the trade deadline, and it's not by a long shot. They got Josh Bell and Juan Soto in one swift move. They lost a lot of prospects, and speaking of prospects, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the farm system rankings are after this trade deadline. The Nationals have to be within the top 15, which I don't believe they were before, with the package they got. And hopefully they can make something out of it. The Nationals have kind of, they've been a little lackluster on getting returns for their big players. Think about what they got for Bryce Harper. Nothing. What they got for Trey Turner. Nothing. For Max Scherzer. Nothing. And they haven't been able to really bring anything out of those guys like the Braves did years ago, like the Cubs did years ago. They haven't been able to capitalize off of that. And hopefully they're able to do it with this prospect package. Hopefully they can turn things around there in D.C. But, they are making moves. And, we're still waiting on the Braves to make some moves. I still think we could improve. I think they're going to need to improve. I know a lot of you guys wanted Will Smith gone. You got your wish this morning. Congrats. I was not necessarily one of those people, but I understand, that we have to move forward. And I think Will Smith hasn't been the guy we wanted him to be. And, that's for one reason or another. But I think we need another right-hander. But it is important to realize from the Braves' point of view, they have a lot of options within. You're talking about Kirby Yates, who's coming back from injury soon. You're talking about, frankly right now, a 6-man rotation who could turn into a 5-man rotation by the end of the deadline. Who really knows? But you're talking about a 6-man rotation that you could take Spencer Strider out and make him a weapon out of the pen. A lot of you guys like that idea. You could take Ian Anderson out. Obviously, starting this year, he has had his struggles. You could move him to the pen. That's 2 righties you could pull out right now and put in the pen, one or the other, and still have a 5-man rotation. And with that, when you're looking at so many options, you also have to consider the idea of Mike Soroka. Now, that's a long shot because we don't know exactly what he's going to be when he comes back, but he could come in the pen. That might be something they're considering. That's, again, a long shot. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. Now, that being said, that's just the Braves. You have to take into consideration what other teams want, what other teams are willing to give up. If the Braves were in on one of these guys, maybe the price was too high. Maybe they wanted Kyle Muller and Tucker Davidson for Anthony Bass, right? We would never do that. It's just not fair, and it's just not, it's out of the Braves' price range when it comes to prospects. They've always been a little bit timid on getting rid of prospects too early, and it has, benefited us in a lot of ways. And I think it's going to continue to benefit us in keeping those guys in years to come. The Braves, like I've said so many times before, are not only set up for success this year and next year, they're set up for success for years to come. And, they added to that yesterday with Riley's extension. But when you look at how many Braves are signed through 2027, it's wild. I mean, you got Austin Riley locked up. You got Matt Olson locked up. Ozzie Albies locked up. Ronald Acuna locked up. And Contreras locked up. You got so many young guys. Michael Harris locked up. And you have so many guys that are young that are locked up for so long. And that's a great thing for the Braves because they're going to be able to afford most of these guys. The Braves, Mark Bowman tweeted today that they're expecting to be in the top 5 payroll themselves in a few years. And that leaves money open for Max Fried. That leaves money open for, whoever else they need to re-sign. Dansby Swanson's a big name right now. Frankly, I'd love to see Dansby Swanson re-signed. If nothing else at the deadline, that's what I'd really like to see, just so we can move forward. I mentioned last night that if he did get re-signed, I think you might see a shortstop that's in the minors get dealt, and we've yet to see that. But moving on into the chat, Double Springs says, I think a solid lefty bullpen arm is what we need. I get that, but I think they're more focused on righties. I wouldn't mind getting a lefty if he's as solid as you're saying, but I think right now it's been a little bit more unbalanced on the lefty side. And I think if you got a really good righty to mix in with the Mentors and Matzicks of the world, I think it would benefit the Braves to be a little bit more balanced in their, in their premier relievers, right? You got a lot of righties that aren't so high leverage relievers. I think if you were able to do that, that would be the case. Right now, they're saying that Noah Syndergaard is the Braves are not in on this. It looks like it's between the Phillies and the Blue Jays. So I didn't think we were in on Syndergaard. I saw the idea that we could possibly be in on Syndergaard, but I didn't think that would be the case. Personally, I thought that, especially after we got Odorizzi, that Syndergaard was out of the picture. I thought we needed, if we were going to get a starter, it was going to be one starter. I didn't think we needed a massive overhaul. And if we get another starter, I start to question, okay, who's going to the pen? Because we'd have a 7-man rotation at that point. I'm still questioning that right now. But there is a lot going on. Garrett Clemens is tuning in. He says, Will Smith is gone. We do need a lefty. I can see it, but at the same time, I feel like, we've had a lefty-heavy pen for so long. I don't think we need as many lefties as we've had. And I'm not saying that we couldn't go get it. Look, I'd love to go get Gregory Soto right now, but I think the price would be too high there. But depending on who it is, look, I've been hunting down righties. I'm not going to lie to you. Anthony Bass, Anthony Bender, David Robertson I've mentioned. There's been one after the other. They've all been righties because I thought we had a lefty-heavy pen. And I'm not saying we couldn't go get a lefty. I wouldn't mind it. But I think at this point, righty reliever would be a primary target, and it wouldn't surprise me if we got a lefty at this point now that we have lost Will Smith. But it wouldn't surprise me at all. But I think, like Garrett Clemens also says, we need another bat. And to be honest with you, the big problem here is that Acuna, Rosario, and Ozuna aren't exactly living up to their baseball card right now. They're not exactly playing like we know they can. I did a whole video on the Acuna slump the other day. I suggest you go take a look at that. I have my reasons for thinking why he's slumping. But besides that, he's not playing up to snuff. At least not compared to what we expect him to be. Ozuna has not played like he had in 2020, what we signed him for. Rosario has had his eyesight troubles. He hasn't played up to what he can do. And if those guys can have a better second half, then, you don't even need a trade deadline. But the problem is they haven't shown you those results yet. And I still think that, that's the case. we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to get an insurance policy. The Braves are too good to waste 2022. But that's just my opinion. Jameson's tuning in. He says, I hope that the Atlanta Braves are going to do something today because the 3 moves they made last night, I don't think it's enough. I think it's enough to be competitive. I don't know that it's enough to compete with, the premier teams, right? The Yankees right now are really good. You get them in a 7-game series, I don't know. You get the Padres in a 7-game series with all the talent that they've recently acquired. We haven't really had time to process it. Frankly, you get the Dodgers in a 7-game series. I don't know. The National League West is probably the best. It's undoubtedly the best division in the National League as of right now, especially with all the additions to the Padres today. It's a very competitive division as well. The National League East is pretty competitive. The important thing for the Braves, I think, in the near future is that the Mets have been relatively quiet. They did go get Daniel Vogelbach. I saw they went and got, a couple relievers, but they've been fairly quiet. They haven't went and got a Juan Soto, right? They haven't went and got a premier name that's out there. So that's nice to see. But I don't know that they necessarily need it either, or at least feel like they need it. That being said, I think that the Braves, here's the thing. The Braves, no matter who tells you anything, the Braves are the team to beat. They are the World Series champions. They have a great squad when that squad plays up to what they can. And right now, they're just not. It'd be nice to get an outfielder that can double at second base with Ozzie Albies being out. That's a big reason I focused in on Ian Happ. It's a big reason why Brandon Drury was brought up the other night. That is a good point. That is a fair point. But, I think, ultimately, AA is not done. I think there's going to be more to come out of this. I think you're going to see, the phones ringing. And I think AA is still out there. I think he is active right now. I'm doing my best to keep an eye on what's going on over here so I don't miss anything. But there's still, the main focus today for Major League Baseball and MLB Network is that Juan Soto and Josh Bell are going to San Diego. And it should be. That is a huge deal. That is a huge blockbuster deal. And it's honestly hard to believe. When I woke up this morning, I didn't know where Juan Soto was going to go. I thought he was going to go somewhere. But to see him going to the Padres is honestly a relief in some way because, the only way that really affects us, sure, we're going to have our games against the Padres, but the only way that truly affects us is if somehow they top the Dodgers and move past them to face us in the National League Championship Series. Now, I'm not saying that couldn't happen, but what I am saying is they got to go through the Dodgers. So I'm a little relieved that it's them and not the Dodgers because, at that point, the Dodgers would be a super team, and they already get everybody they want anyway, so it's a little nice to see somebody go to the Padres. I would have personally, as a baseball fan, liked to have seen them go to the Cardinals, because of all the, you guys know, the hype around Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols. But a guy like Juan Soto, going to a team like the Cardinals who have kind of become in reminiscent of a small market team. I don't know that they're necessarily small market, but they have a lot of prospects. They're not a very old team outside of the 3 players I just mentioned. They're pretty young. They got a lot of prospects. It would have been exciting to see. It would have taken a massive haul of prospects to get him in St. Louis anyway, and I understand that. But I would have liked to have seen it personally. That being said, it is exciting to see Soto go to the Padres. That is a major deal, and a lot of people are talking about it, and rightfully so. But there's a lot of rumors out there right now. I see Destructo is in the comment section. He brings up one that I think we have to talk about, and I kind of mentioned it earlier. The idea of Jock Peterson. I talked about this in my original trade deadline video because this is something that you can't skip over. He and Jorge Soler are 2 guys that are synonymous with what the Braves are right now. They go hand in hand when you're talking about the World Series of 2022. Jorge Soler because he's the World Series MVP, and Jock Peterson because his nickname is Jocktober, right? And rightfully so. But I told you yesterday that I didn't think the Giants were sellers because that's what I heard on the Giants broadcast. That's what I grabbed from the Giants media. That's what all the articles said out there were that the Giants, sure, they could be sellers, but I didn't think that they would be. I thought they were going to try to compete for the wild card spot. But there's two guys on that roster that have not gone anywhere. Jock Peterson and Carlos Rodon are two of them. It would be phenomenal if they somehow landed both of them. And in that case, I don't know what we do with the starting rotation, but Carlos Rodon would be an ace, first of all. He would be up there in the conversation with Max Fried right now as who is the ace. But beyond that, Jock Peterson would be, one, it'd be fan service. All of us would be excited about it. But two, you're talking about a guy that single-handedly changed the entire attitude of the team last year and had a great postseason and had a pretty good year last year offensively and could really flip it around. And people ask me, well, where does Jock Peterson go if that happens? Where does he fit in the fold? For one, he'd take left field. I don't think there's any doubt there. I mean, you're talking about the difference between Eddie Rosario this year, and Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson's an everyday player who has power. Eddie Rosario, look, I was all for bringing Rosario back. I thought he was the guy. But Eddie Rosario has not turned into the guy. He's hitting below 200. He doesn't have a lot of homers. He's not hitting consistently. He's gotten better, and I think he'll continue to get better. But I don't know that we can necessarily wait when we're in a division race with the Mets. This is our last chance to go get a major player. They may take that shot, and if they can somehow include a pitcher in there as well, being Carlos Rodon, then that's something to be very excited about. That's just under the radar enough to be perfect for Alex Anthopoulos. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. And to be honest with you, 2 days ago, I thought it was impossible. I thought, no way, the Giants aren't losing Jock Peterson. But as time goes on, as that clock ticks closer and closer, and the Giants look at consistent losing on their end, they're probably wondering, not to mention what the Padres did today. That they're staring at the Padres across the division who are in second place going, do we really have a chance this year, or should we cut our losses? And I think they're probably leaning more towards cutting their losses based on all the selling I'm seeing today. And I think, as time goes on, as it gets closer to the deadline, by the way, we are approximately 19 minutes away from the deadline, so we're running short on time. But if they somehow pull that off, if Alex Anthopoulos somehow pulls that off, I think it's great for the Braves, first of all, and I think it would be good for the Giants to, look past this year and say, all right, let's reanalyze what we got, let's take another look, because right now they are not, I don't think there's anything they can do to offset the Padres trade deadline. I don't think they're close enough to the Dodgers to get there. The Dodgers are making moves, whether you consider it a good move or a bad move. They got Joey Gallo today. I haven't seen the Giants do anything but sell for the most part. They've gotten some pieces, but not very many, and they've more so lost talent than anything. But the two guys that I'm looking at right now from the Giants are definitely Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson. And a lot of people are going to ask, well, what do you do with a 7-man rotation? Guys, this isn't the first time somebody has worn a Braves hat for a day or two. I think if you got Carlos Rodon, you could either flip Ian Anderson, you could flip Jake Odorizzi. There's something you could do to offset that. You could move Anderson to the pen. The important thing is that you get talent in. The important thing is that, that you get that talent and you bring them to the team, and then you can figure it out, right? You can move pieces to where you need to move them. I never thought in a million years that we would see A.J. Minter start a game in the postseason, but we did a few years ago. We can move pieces. It's better to have more starters than not enough, right? It's better to have more options there than not enough. I think it could happen, but they have 18 minutes to do it. A few teams are out there. They're looking at Pablo Lopez. I like that move, but at the same time, I don't think the Braves are going to make that happen, and I'll tell you why. I know we've traded with the Marlins before at the deadline. I don't think we're going to trade for a starting pitcher, not in the division, and especially not somebody so young as Pablo Lopez. You're talking about a guy with years of control. You're talking about a guy with, frankly, a lot of time in his contract. I don't think the Marlins, if they're going to be any good in 3 years, 4 years, are going to want to face him every fifth day and look back and go, oh, yeah, we had him on our roster at one time, and what did we get for him? Prospects and never turned into anything. It would take a haul, I think, to get him in the first place, and added by 3 to get, added on top of that significant, more for the Braves. I think, but we'll see. There's a lot of rumors out there. All we know is that around 6:30, we'll kind of get an idea of what happened. Something might happen right at the deadline for the Braves. That's kind of what happened last year. We didn't know exactly what happened until after 6 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, don't go cutting off the stream. We're still going to be here looking at what's going on. But I haven't heard anything as of late. There is no big update. I got MLB Network. I got Twitter open. I got everything I can open. I don't see anything, but you got to think something's going to happen. You got to think something's got to shake because as of right now, they can't just continue to not do anything. Teams are going to make moves as time ticks closer. They're going to get anxious. They're going to make a move. That's the way I feel. Rhett Good brings up a good point, or brings up a pretty good, let's see what you said. He says, could we do Tucker Davidson and Eddie for Ian Happ if we need to add William Woods or Brooks Wilson? I think we could do something of the sort. I don't know if, a lot of people bring in specific names. I pitched this last night. Obviously, it's outdated now that David Robertson is off the table. I usually go for a prospect package of some sort, right? And I don't usually like to bring up names because it's so hard to judge, what a prospect is across, we don't get to see these guys at the major league level. Tucker Davidson, we're familiar with. Tucker Davidson, if I'm getting rid of Tucker Davidson, he's got to give me a premier player. I think Ian Happ is that. If they have another bullpen piece, I want to say Chaffin is still out there with the Cubs, but I'm not certain on that. Based on it's been a crazy day today, guys. In fact, Michael Fulmer is now headed to the Twins. They've just announced. But that's the way I usually handle it. I don't like to bring up specific names with prospects because, again, it's hard to judge what another organization looks at our organization and goes, yeah, that's what I want, right? We know the top guys, but below that, it's a little hard to judge. I think if you got Tucker Davidson and Eddie, I think that's more than enough for Ian Happ. I don't think you need to add anything to that because Tucker Davidson could be a starter for them for a long time in the future and, frankly, could be a fundamental piece to what they build around if they got Tucker Davidson. Jackson says, Shoemaker and Davidson have got to be our best trade chips, right? I don't believe either will have a spot on the Major League roster anytime soon. Don't be so sure. I know we have a 6-man rotation right now. You're looking at Tucker Davidson going, I don't know. They're definitely our best trade pieces, at least at the AAA level. But you got Vaughn Grissom in the minor leagues. We got trade pieces. Look at our starting lineup at the major league level. We can trade somebody. It's not always best to trade though. That's the tricky part. We'll see on that, but I don't believe either will be on the major league roster anytime soon. The thing about let's focus on Shoemaker for a second. I talked about this last night. Shoemaker, I don't think will be a Brave. If I'm honest with you, I don't. But the key to Shoemaker is you have to keep him to keep leverage on Dansby if you're the Braves. If you don't have a ready-made shortstop, that affects negotiations. And you may be saying, well, that would never happen. Dansby would never put the Braves in that kind of position. Look at the offseason this past year. Remind yourself of that. It's now 15 minutes until the trade deadline, and we have no deal with Dansby Swanson as of yet. I'm not saying it's not going to happen even at the end of the year, but they have to keep that in there. Now, in terms of Davidson, you always want to have pitching depth. You never know what might happen. Somebody might get hurt. Davidson pitched a game in the World Series last year. You never know when you might need somebody like that. Again, I'm not saying he's the guy. I'm not saying he won't get traded. But with a guy like Kyle Muller who's now hurt, which probably forced the Braves to say, okay, we need some pitching depth, that I think may have a factor on it. That may be the holdup in why the Braves haven't made a move already. Not to say that they won't, but they haven't yet. So we'll see. It's now 12 minutes until the deadline. Again, moves can continue to be made after that. We will talk about what the Braves did, what they didn't do. We will talk about it once we know that it's pretty much finalized, but we don't know that yet. I would probably call it around 6:30, 6:45 before we really know everything. Richard Davis tuning in. He says, what people have to understand is that the Braves really have any spot for a bullpen arm. Everyone is pitching well. Smith trade was great. I'd say Jackson is the odd man out now. Jackson Stevens, that is. Yeah, he's been pretty good too. I look at the bullpen, and I definitely think there's. I mean, look, if you went and got an elite reliever, you could find somebody to get rid of. Jesse Chavez is one of those guys that I think is, again, not to say easily replaceable, but easily upgradable. And Jackson Stevens may be that guy. But you can find a spot for an elite reliever. I think I think ultimately it's better to have more than not, right? And that's kind of where I'm at. And if you get an elite reliever, you can make Jackson Stevens depth. Not everybody likes to hear that, and I get that, but it is what it is. Sorry guys, I'm getting updates to my phone regularly. I've got somebody in the other room watching MLB Network, so I can keep up with it. A lot of you guys tuning in tonight, I really do appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like button before we go any further. I would appreciate it. Thank you for that. Richard Davis says Thor could help. That would move Strider to the pen, which may help him in the long run. Sure, but from what I know, they are out on they're out on him. They're not in the mix of conversation with Noah Syndergaard. That's what was just shown on the screen a few minutes ago, at least. Again, I think he could help. I think, sure, that could happen. But you already have a six-man rotation, including Strider. You're mentioning putting Strider in the pen. You would still have a six-man rotation. Not to mention Strider has been phenomenal in the starting role and in the bullpen role. So I don't know if the Braves are really comfortable letting him walk away from starting just yet. Although in the postseason, in a 7-game series, I want Strider in the bullpen, no doubt about it. UGA Football Highlight Films, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Says Dylan Tate from Baltimore would be a good one. I appreciate you tuning in, man. Hope you're subscribed. We're going to keep monitoring. There's only a few more minutes before 6 o'clock, and that's what we are waiting on, and we'll know kind of what's going on. As of right now, Rich Hill is being talked about. He's being considered by a number of teams, including the Twins, the Cardinals, and the Phillies. The Phillies are gearing up on arms. That's something to keep an eye on for the Braves. They picked up David Robertson earlier today. Now, if they get Rich Hill, that could be something for them personally. With all the injuries that the Phillies have had, I'm not too worried about the Phillies from the Braves' perspective. I'm more worried about the Mets for the correct reason of they're in first place, and we got to beat them before we can worry about what's going on behind us. But we'll see. Josh Gillum says, trade for Chris Bryant and DFA Ozuna. No, I think we can get somebody out of Ozuna. If we're going to get rid of Ozuna, which I think is unlikely, to tell you the truth, I think it's unlikely. But if you're going to get rid of Ozuna, if you can find a way to do it, I think you can find somewhere for him to go. And somebody brought up a good point earlier. If you can find somewhere from Will Smith, you can find somewhere for Marcell Ozuna. Will Smith, I want to say, was making more per year, and granted, it's only the remainder of this year, but Marcell, I think you could find somewhere for him. Somebody would like another DH candidate. Marcell Ozuna is that. He just hasn't performed, and I'm not saying that that's going to be the case, but that could be where the Braves are at. So we'll see. John Simmons says, have to be a realist. Our farm system is weak right now. Braves will need to pay money for Swanson extension and pay for a left fielder, etc. I brought this up earlier, but Mark Bowman tweeted earlier today that the Braves are looking to be in the top 5 payroll in the next few years. That is enough money, and when you look at the other guys in the top 5 payroll, that's enough for Swanson. That's enough for Fried. That's enough for the number of those players. I'm not saying everybody, but it is a number on that can pay a lot of those guys. Hopefully Swanson will get the extension. All right, appreciate all you guys tuning in. Make sure to like the video. It does help me out a lot. I really appreciate it. John Simmons, thanks for tuning in, man. Tice Thompson, thanks for tuning in. He says he wants Ian Happ. I'm all about it. Malik Brooks says they want Ian Happ. A lot of guys are in on the Ian Happ idea. I'm for it. I am absolutely for it. I told you that yesterday, that I am in on Ian Happ. I would like it to happen. I think it makes sense. We talked about it last night extensively. Ian Happ, has been a solid hitter all year. He's had good years before this year. The thing about Ian Happ that makes him a good fit for the Braves, in my opinion, right now, is that he can play outfield. He can play second base. And with Ozzie Albies out till September, I don't think it'll be permanent, but I think Ian Happ could fill that role temporarily. Again, I don't think that would be permanent, but I think temporarily you would see something along the lines of this. And this was made before we got Grossman last night, or today, but for me, you platoon Grossman or Rosario in left, you leave Happ at second for the time being. I think it makes sense. And a lot of you guys are, might say, well, Ian Happ's primary position is at second base. Guys, it's for half a year. The guy's a good hitter. You want him in the lineup. You got to fill out the lineup, and somebody's got to play second. And if Ian Happ has better numbers at second base than Arcia, guess where he's going to play? Second base. Now, when Ozzie Albies returns, everybody's happy, and we have him in the outfield, and we have Ozzie back at second. But that's what I think the Braves should do. That's what I've said from the jump. I would have liked to have included David Robertson and killed two birds with one stone, but we'll see. I have gotten some updated news per Jason Stark. Phillies are closing in on Noah Syndergaard. Now that's just who knows, but with 6 minutes left to go, they better hurry. A lot of guys are saying that the Braves are probably done. Guys, I'm going to tell you this. They very well may be done. I don't know. What I do know is this. I thought they were done last year. I really did. And they very well could be. They could be. But just remember, the Braves are silent about what they do. They do not voice their, ideas. They have a tight wall there. They don't let anything get out. And I think that's the case here. But, that's how I'm thinking about it. But again, Ian Happ would be phenomenal. All right, it is now official. According to Jason Stark, Phillies have traded Mickey Moniak and a second prospect to the Angels for Noah Syndergaard, sources tell The Athletic. So Noah Syndergaard is going to Philadelphia. Guys, I'm looking at this, and, the Phillies are upgrading, but the Phillies are upgrading because they need to. They got to if they're going to chase the Braves, if they're going to chase the Mets. The Mets haven't made a move. That could be their downfall. They got Daniel Vogelbach a few weeks back, and that's great. But, it is what it is. Right now, the Braves got 4 minutes to make a deal happen. I think they could do it. We'll see. A lot of deals get done in the last few minutes, so they might have something cooking right now. It could be in 30 seconds. Who knows? But we are here. We are going to be here when it happens, and we're going to let you know. Jameson Mason says the clock is ticking. You couldn't be more right. Maker TSF kind of lightens the mood. He says Brett Phillips is going to the Orioles. Orioles will now win the World Series. Probably. Who knows? I think Brett Phillips is a good guy to have on the Orioles with such a young staff that's going to be coming through. I think he's a good guy to have around. Let's see what you guys are saying recently. Zach Anderson, thank you. He says, last year I remember us confirming a few trades a little after 6 o'clock. I was here with you. I was streaming, and it was, they didn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, Richard Rodriguez, Adam Duvall. It was one after the other. So who really knows? I'm trying to keep an eye on it best I can. The latest news is that the Phillies got Noah Syndergaard, but Pete Harrington brings up a good point. Phillies defense needs a lot of help. They got an outfield full of DHs. Kyle Schwarber in left and Nick Castellanos in right. I mean, their defense does need some help. I don't know if this is their primary focus, but it is what it is. Blake Newsome says, this is him, I think that Ozuna's trade is a better fit in the offseason, like you've said before. I think so too. I think it would have made more sense at the beginning of the year, but I think the Braves might have shopped him around, especially after what happened last year and being gone for a year. I think they probably tried before the beginning of the year. That being said, I still think it can be done, but I think, if teams need a DH, they know where to go, and it's Marcell Ozuna if they want it. Pablo Lopez will officially remain with the Marlins beyond the trade deadline. That's per source. That's according to Feinsand, and the Yankees were one of the teams that tried to deal for him, but the match wasn't there. He is under He is under club control through 2024. So Pablo Lopez will remain a Miami Marlin. All right, it's good that he is not going to be a New York Met, if nothing else. Zach Anderson says, hey, even if we don't land Hap or Jock or someone like that, I love the team we have right now. We are a totally different situation than last year. No need for major changes. Agreed. I've said that for the past few weeks, and when the trade deadline comes, you always get excited about, what you could do, what are the possibilities that are out there. A lot of exciting players get moved, like Juan Soto, Josh Hader, Trey Mancini. I mean, when players get moved like that, Josh Bell today, when players get moved like that, you get excited, right? I don't know if you can tell, but I've been on pins and needles all day wondering what's going to happen before 6 o'clock, which we are 1 minute away from, everybody. I've been on pins and needles wondering what's going to happen. And, because of that, you're just like, well, all right, what are the Braves going to do? And you start to expect them to do something. It's not always, necessarily going to happen. So you bring up a good point, and I do agree with you. We are in a much different situation this year than this time last year. You got to remember, this time last year, we needed a massive overhaul. You had Acuna out for the year, Ozuna out for the year. That's two major parts of your lineup, major parts of your outfield, and they're just gone. So, yeah, you needed a massive overhaul. They got a massive overhaul. We all thought that the bullpen was going to get the focus, and then it didn't. And we're all looking at it now like, man, we need an outfielder. Man, we need bullpen help. And then we go out and get a starter. So, it's easy to expect, major changes. It doesn't always have to happen. The Padres, I'll be honest with you, the Padres are the team that came out of nowhere, obviously. I'm surprised by that a bit. I shouldn't be, but I am. Because I didn't think they needed all of that. I mean, they already have paid so much money. They've gotten all the guys that they wanted. They got Machado, and then now they trade Hosmer, who was the first big free agent to go to, San Diego and buy in. So I don't really know what they got going on. They still got a long road ahead of them to beat the Dodgers. We'll see. But the Braves are very good now. And, like Richard Davis there says, they are very good. I think they could have made improvements if they didn't. But there's still time. We'll see. Pete Harrington says we need to keep stride with the Mets. This team is strong. Albies will be back. We just need to win games we are supposed to. I agree with you. Look, we're 3.5 games back with the Mets. We're about to start a 5-game series. They didn't really upgrade at the deadline. I think we're a better team than the Mets. Personally, I think we're more well-rounded, especially now that we've added to the starting rotation. I think we're going to have, and here's the thing. They know something we don't. They know a lot of things we don't because they're privy to the information. It's not because we can't find out the information. Well, it is because we can't find out the information. Mike Soroka could be developing fast. Kirby Yates could be more ready to go than a lot of other people want to give him credit for. They know something, and they know how much money they need to pull out of their wallet, if you get what I'm saying. They know they are wanting to compete. I would be surprised if we didn't see a move here in the next few minutes. But even if we don't, it wouldn't surprise me if the Braves were back in the postseason this year. I'm surprised we haven't seen Whit Merrifield get moved yet. I think that is another move that the Braves could be. Where is he going, guys? Where is Whit Merrifield? Okay, I see you guys in there. Where is Whit Merrifield going? Okay, Royals have traded Whit Merrifield, but we don't know where he's going. Could he be going to the Braves? If that happens, that's nuts. But we don't know where yet. I'm trying to keep an eye on it. If you guys see it before MLB Network announces it, please let me know. It's looking, Caleb says the Blue Jays, which would be interesting. That would be a big pickup. I mean, at second base, you just got an outfielder that kind of shores up second base, if nothing else. But yeah, it's kind of surprised me that it's taken so long for Whit Merrifield to get traded, especially how the Royals were selling the other day. Zach Anderson wants to know, can you fill me in on Merrifield? Haven't watched him very much. Merrifield, I might have his stats up here. No, I don't. Merrifield is about I want to say like a 270 hitter. Not big on power, is good with the glove. But, he's a good player. I don't know. It's looking like he's going to the Blue Jays. That's what everybody in the chat is saying. I haven't seen it on MLB Network. I haven't got the update yet. I don't know if it's official, But we're going to find out soon. It's looking like it's going to be Blue Jays, but no one has announced it yet. It's looking more and more based on the chat like it is the Blue Jays. So Whit Merrifield is going to the Blue Jays according to the chat. I'm going with that. But the thing about, yep, official, Merrifield is going to the Blue Jays. All right. The thing about the thing about the trade deadline is there's always like a team that gets a shot in the arm, right? And I think the Braves could use a shot in the arm, and that's kind of what I guess I'm waiting on, which I haven't seen yet. Again, I am keeping an eye on Twitter. I'm keeping an eye on ESPN. I'm keeping an eye on MLB Network. I'm waiting to see. I think we're going to have the fallout happen. I agree with Cody Thomas there. I'm glad we didn't go to, pull a Hail Mary and go get Joey Gallo. I never thought that was the right move. But I still think there are moves for the Braves to be made. Riley Keeney says Babe Ruth to the Atlanta Braves for cash considerations. I don't know, guys. The time is running short. I'd say we still got 20 minutes or so before we really need to call it. I don't think it's done yet. All they're really talking about now is Whit Merrifield, but we will see. Oh me, Twitter has been quite the attraction here later. Yelton says 9 minutes left. I mean, the trade deadline is officially over, but I would say I'd give it another 10 or 15 minutes before calling it. I think there might be something, there. And look, there was a few trades last year that happened before, or before the trade deadline, a few that we found out about after. I don't know, Jameson. I can't quite answer that. So the trade deadline is officially clocked, by the way, 5 minutes ago. So it's officially over, but we don't know necessarily everything that happened. There's never an official, okay, it's over, this is what happened. It's usually just sort of trickles out as time goes on. Okay, Ken Rosenthal, 20 seconds ago. The Cubs are not trading Contreras or Ian Happ, sources tell The Athletic. That's unfortunate. I thought Ian Happ would be a good pickup for the Braves. Not looking like it's going to happen. Hate to see that because I don't know what the Cubs are planning to do with him. But I think that's honestly kind of dumb by the Cubs, to tell you the truth. Maybe they're betting on maybe they're just betting on keeping him, I guess. I don't really understand. Most of what I'm seeing right now is so-and-so will remain in. So, Matt Moore will remain with the Rangers. All right, Bob Nightingale. The San Francisco Giants trade away fringe pieces and hang on to starter Carlos Rodon and outfielder Jock Peterson staying in the wild card race. So, we're not getting Jock Peterson. We're not getting Carlos Rodon. I thought that was a possibility. It's looking like the possibilities are sort of winding down. And look, if that's the case, then let's just prepare for that to be. Let's just prepare for that to be what we got. I still think the Braves had a decent. All right, Noah Syndergaard is officially a Philly. I still think the Braves did okay. I think they improved certain aspects, and if they didn't, I don't think they necessarily needed to. As of right now, this is what the Braves were able to do. A couple days ago, yesterday, they traded Trey Harris, minor league prospect outfielder, for A-Ray Adrianza, a guy that's very familiar to Braves country. We all are familiar with him. Besides that, they traded minor league pitcher Chris Anglin for Robbie Grossman. And a lot of people are kind of overlooking that deal. The dude is like killing lefties this year. Just keep that in mind. And of course, earlier today it was confirmed that left-handed pitcher Will Smith is traded for Jake Odorizzi. So look, at the end of the day, I know it's not exactly what we wanted. I know it's not exactly what the expectations were made out to be. I really thought something was going to happen. I thought Jock Peterson was a real possibility. But, it is what it is. That being said, we're still sort of waiting. Something may trickle through. It's not looking likely, though, to be honest with you. Jeff Passan tweeted 30 seconds ago, not going to be any buzzer beaters from the Chicago Cubs. Sources said Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ will remain in Chicago. Also staying Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson, Martin Perez, and Matt Moore. Still awaiting on the Red Sox trade candidates. So, look, there's more teams out there, guys. I think I'm sure Double A is making the right move. I think, frankly, just signing Austin Riley to a long-term deal was smart. I think there's more to it than what we're going to see. And look, at the end of the day, if we don't do anything, I think that the Braves are probably making a smart decision based on the track record. Because when I look at Alex Anthopoulos, he has never one to overpay, and I'm sure that probably came up. That situation came up. We don't have the prospects we used to. We're all well aware of that, but I think Double A more than likely made the right decision. I think we need to just appreciate it. Robert Gall in with the Super Chat. Man, I appreciate that right now. He says, Drury went really cheap, pretty underwhelming coming off a World Series run. Did we not have any money left to spend? It's not really about money, Robert. I think it's more so just, the deal. And look, it's not necessarily over. Let me say that. It's not necessarily over. Something might come out of the woodwork here. But I think it's more so a deal just wasn't there. And, when I have a general manager that is Alex Anthopoulos, who has proven himself so many different times, especially last year, it would have been nice to get Drury. I see Yelton down there saying that would have been the best deal if that was possible. Alex is banking on farm and prospects. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think a deal might have just not been there. I think a random bullpen arm could still come in because, guys, the only teams that are out are the teams that everybody was watching. We all know Alex Anthopoulos has also been a very under-the-table guy. He's never been necessarily one to go for the mainstream deal. And when you got a lot of attention on a guy, I spoke too soon. 30 seconds. Closer. Raisel Iglesias has been traded from the Angels to the Braves. Looky there. I just said it. A random bullpen arm got picked up. Attaboy Braves. Look at Double A at work. Closer. Raisel Iglesias has been traded from the Angels to the Braves. And look, he is a good arm. Obviously, he's a closer. I don't know if he'll be a closer on the Braves. I'll have to take a look. But based on Kenley Jansen's year this year and health-wise uncertainty, I think he very well could be the closer when he shows up. I'm going to have to take a look at his stats to really get an idea. He is a right-handed pitcher, which is what I wanted. I appreciate that. He's got a 4 ERA, so he's likely not going to be closing any games for the Braves. Let's see. He has got 35 innings pitched this year, 16 saves. I believe we have some other news. Okay, here's the trade. I failed to mention this. Here's the trade. This was not announced till just now. Tucker Davidson and Jesse Chavez, who I mentioned earlier about being the last man out. Jesse Chavez and Tucker Davidson are gone. They are no longer Atlanta Braves. And hey, look, here's the thing, guys. Thanks for the super chat again, Robert. I appreciate that. Here's the thing. Tucker Davidson was running out of room in the minors. The dude was being held back in the Braves farm system a bit because of who all we got. And we're picking up Odorizzi, who has a player option in the next year. I think this is a good move. I think this is, I think this is a solid move and improves the pen. And a lot of you guys aren't going to like losing Tucker. I get it. A lot of you guys aren't going to like losing Jesse Chavez. But, I think they will have, I think it'll be fine for them. I'm sure Tucker will get playing time. Jesse will get playing time as well. So I think that that's something to mention here. And look, we may still keep finding out. We could go on for an hour before we really know everything. I think, personally, I'm glad we kept Kyle Muller because, I mentioned yesterday that we could lose him because of the broken hand. He couldn't help us now. I think, Tucker Davidson wasn't going to help us this year. I mentioned a few minutes ago it would have been nice to keep the depth, but as the time wound down, I'm sure Double A's pockets became a little bit more open. And, when you start considering, hey, I have a whole year ahead of me, I have a weak pin. I just lost the closer that closed out the World Series. I could use a spark. I could use a shot in the arm. I think that is what it is. So I think that is likely the situation. I think that is more than likely what happened. And, a lot of people, I see it in the chat already, that there's disappointment in the trade deadline. I'll be honest with you. I am not that disappointed. I think, I think personally this is a realistic deadline. I think this is a deadline that met expectations. It didn't really exceed yet. There could be more. Who knows? But a lot of people are going to be upset that we traded. A lot of people are going to say that we needed. We need prospects, but we don't, guys. We're in a win now mode. I think this is important to say. I think this is important to realize that the Braves are no longer in the business of keeping prospects. I just don't think that's exactly what we're in the mood for, and I think that more could be happening. I'm trying to keep up to date with everything on Twitter because that's where I'm finding out most of the news, instantly. But Iglesias, a lot of people may not like the move. It's a beloved face in Jesse Chavez and a future face in Tucker Davidson. I get it. But these are the kind of moves that have to be made. This is the cycle of baseball because you have a team who, frankly, is not going to be competing for the next few years in the Los Angeles Angels. And you have a guy who could be a starter of the future in Tucker Davidson. That's a good match. For the Braves, you pick up a reliever who's not a free agent until 2026. So it's not like he's a free agent at the end of the year. You're not losing him for half a season, those guys for half a season. I think he could be, he could grow into being, having better numbers than what he is having right now. Looking for his ERA right now. Look, he's got a 4.04 ERA right now, but at 8 years in the league, he's got a 3.13. This is not the first half is not indicative of what he has done in his career. I think he could have a greater second half. I haven't had a chance to really look at the numbers, so forgive me there. But I'm keeping in mind. I'm really keeping an eye on what I can do. Bob Nightingale tweets: closer Raisel Iglesias just signed a 4-year, $58 million contract with the Angels last winter. With $48 million still owed this season, Atlanta is picking up the entire contract. So that's big news. Atlanta is willing to pick up $48 million. A lot of people were complaining about the trade deadline. A lot of people were complaining about the payroll, rather. I think that it's important to realize, there you go. The Braves are here to pay money too, and they don't mind doing it. So that's a big deal. I don't know how much I really like that move, to tell you the truth, especially with a major deal like that, $48 million owed after this season. They're picking up the entire contract. That's huge, and we'll have him for 4 years. 2026 will be his free agent year. Joseph Alvarez, thank you for the super chat, brother. I appreciate it. It's going to be a long night tonight. We're probably going to be here a while, so I thank you for that. Super chats really help me keep me motivated, so I appreciate that. And look, I know there's going to be some upset folks out there. I'm sure every trade deadline has its ups and downs. Keep in mind, last year we lost Bryce Wilson and everybody forgot about it, right? So just keep that open mind. We'll see. Pete Harrington, talking Mets with Rob and his followers are so mad that the Braves made moves and the Mets didn't. Yeah, I was listening to a Mets podcast earlier just out of curiosity, and they weren't thrilled that the Mets had a lackluster deadline because, let's be real, as of right now they did. So we'll see, man. It's wild. Austin Riley, I believe, had his introductory, not that he needed any introduction, but he had his introductory conference today, so that's something else. I'm just literally going through Twitter. Mets, okay, that's Mets and Darren Ruff. I don't think there's going to be anything new. I think we can kind of conclude it, but then again, I'm going to give it a few more minutes. Something may come through. I'm trying to monitor as much as I can. If you guys see something that I haven't mentioned, make sure to bring it up. But guys, there's always unreasonable expectations, especially for Double A coming off of last year, pulling off highway robbery like he did. There's always going to be those unreasonable expectations, and rightfully so. But I want to flash back to what we had before today, or before tonight, rather, because I look at what we came into today with, and to be honest with you, I was semi-satisfied with it. Not to say it was perfect, but, I look at this and I go, okay, A-Ray Adrianza for Trey Harris. Trey Harris was probably never going to wear a Braves uniform in the major leagues. Was probably never going to start for the Braves in the major leagues, at least not in the foreseeable future. For A-Ray Adrianza, who, again, can be really valuable off the bench for a team competing in the postseason. I look at Chris Anglin for Robbie Grossman. I think you got a solid bat there, especially against lefties. If you can platoon him against Rosario successfully, that's a good Duvall replacement. Maybe not with the power numbers that we've seen this season, but when you're hitting 364, 367 off lefties, you're going to get noticed, and he got noticed. So I think that is solid. But at the same time, I look at the Will Smith and Jake Odorizzi. And now you add Raisel Iglesias as another replacement for the Will Smith era. I look at that and I go, okay, I can kind of see this. At the end of the day, I think ultimately it's not what we had in mind. I think we all would have loved to get Ian Happ, but the Cubs are they want to keep him. Personally, if I was a Cubs fan, I know they kind of get tired of losing, of losing all their players. I get that. But I don't understand it. I mean, I know he's a free agent next year. Why not load up on prospects? I mean, that's how they won the World Series from the jump. I don't know why they're doing this now. I don't understand not trading Contreras. If you want to re-sign him at the end of the year, why not do that? But, it is what it is. I get there's upset people in the chat. I understand it. Happy to see Hitman in the chat. He says he is so happy that we acquired Iglesias. Great trade. Look, at the end of the day, I would have liked to have seen some more moves made, right? But at the same time, I would have liked to have seen more bullpen moves last year. So at the same time, I think that, we can look at this and judge it now, but I think we're not going to be able to really judge it until the end of the year. I think that's when we're going to know. Luca says, only Harris we need is Money Mike. I agree with you. Corey Carter, the disappointment from some, myself included, is partially due to how great last year was. Yeah, man, rightfully so. Like, I look at last year, I remember being right here last year, same time, same place, telling you guys that I thought the Braves could be very active in the trade deadline. Did I believe it would be as, a spectacle as it became? No. Was I surprised? Absolutely. And was I, satisfied? Beyond. So, yeah, it's hard to beat last year, and you got to think more teams are on guard for Alex Anthopoulos now. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily, they're like, oh, we're not going to trade Alex Anthopoulos. That dude completely flipped the script last year. But you got to think they're going, oh, well, we might want to hold off with the Braves. I mean, you never know what somebody has at work. You never know what the mindset is. And, the offer might have just not been there from the Braves to go get anybody. But I really am surprised. Johnny T with the super chat. I appreciate it, brother. He says, keep it up. I enjoy the show every time you are on. Thank you for that. Chop on to the 5th title. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate the super chat. Thank you for your support. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you tell your friends about it. And that goes for all of you. If you're in the chat right now, if you're watching this video, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay updated with everything we got going on here and, of course, all across Major League Baseball. Exciting time right now, but we have stuff all year long. So make sure you are checked in and you are watching. Thanks for that. All right, moving on. Corey Carter says he is starting to wonder about Ozzie. I'm a bit concerned we haven't heard anything about him rehabbing. I don't think that's too out of the ordinary. I mean, we haven't really heard anything out of Mike Soroka since he got hit in the knee. I don't think that's too out of the ordinary. They've been kind of tight-lipped on Kirby Yates, so it's not too out of the ordinary. I would like to have some kind of update, but I'm not surprised we haven't heard anything. I wouldn't be worried. They haven't put a timetable on it from what I know, but they have said that it's looking like September. So they say no timetable, then they tell you September. I don't really know what the timetable is, but that's what I've heard. Ronnie Redmond, I wonder who his son is. The Braves are leading the National League in blown saves. Add 15 wins, and we don't need more offense. Good point. And another case of that, we've talked a lot about Ian Anderson in the past few days. Could he have been dealt? We'll never know. But we've talked about him a lot. He's leading the lead, or he's at least in the conversation still. I believe he was leading the league in walks over the past week. If he's not leading it, he's in the conversation. So that is something that we could limit. We could limit losing games late. And I agree with you. That's why I think the bullpen needed help, is because, the Braves are leading the National League in blown saves. They're leading the National League in losing games late. And, it is what it is. Caleb Smitherman says he doesn't mind the thought of Eddie and Grossman platooning. Yeah, I don't either. I was going to pull up a graphic. I meant to build one. I didn't have a chance today, so I apologize for that. I was going to pull up a graphic of what their stats combined would look like versus lefties and righties. I do have it written down, though, so I'm going to just kind of read that off. You combine those two guys, you got a 248 average and 3 homers, one for Robbie and one for Eddie. The homers isn't really the key there, but you have a 248 average and 42 hits and 169 at-bats. I think you have a much better player, especially when you consider Grossman has a 364 average against lefties. Eddie hasn't played up to his full potential, so 248 should only grow in theory there. So hopefully that'll be the case. But if you have a 248 hitter and that's your weak point in the lineup, I don't think you're doing too bad. So that I don't mind the idea of it either. But a lot of people are going to look at that and go, well, you didn't get Shohei Ohtani, so I'm disappointed. A lot of times, especially when you have a guy like Alex Anthopoulos who did what he did last year, you're going to have guys on MLB Network, guys, just in the national baseball media. You're going to have guys hype up what the trade deadline could be. When I saw Shohei Ohtani get mentioned for the Braves, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. Now, could we get him? Yeah. But do you want to give him a prospect package that's equivalent to what Juan Soto got today? Absolutely not. Because the Braves are not the Nationals. We are competing. We don't need Shohei Ohtani. And I thought that was ridiculous. So that's my, soapbox for the day. I thought more we're going to get moves to, complete the team we have built. We have a great team. If Ozuna, Acuna, and Rosario would flip it around offensively, we'd have the best offense in baseball. Now we have a complete rotation. If the bullpen, with Raisel Iglesias can circle up, then I think it'll be better. I would have liked to have seen one more righty, but at the same time, I look at our bullpen and I look at our injured list and go, well, Kirby Yates is coming back soon. So I definitely think trading Jesse Chavez probably has upset a lot of you. I understand it. He's a fan favorite. But at the same time, understand he was going to be moved one way or the other. At least we got something for him. We had to improve. It is what it is. I will miss Jesse Chavez. I'm seeing a lot of people on Twitter say that. I liked him as a pitcher. I liked his mindset. He threw strikes. And as a person, he was fun to root for. But at the same time, I really think I think that this is a solid move. I never thought that Shohei Ohtani was possible. I never thought, anything like that was going to happen. A lot of people did, though. A lot of people are going to be disappointed because of it. William Matson says that he wanted to get Mark Melancon cheap from the Diamondbacks. That could have happened. Mark Melancon led in saves last year. He was good with the Braves. What I will tell you is that when he left the Braves, he had a couple of words to say that I don't think aged very well. He said that he wanted to be on a winner. That's why he went to San Diego. The Braves proceeded to win the World Series, and that's the last we ever saw of Mark Melancon. We also walked it off on him the other night, I believe. But, times change. Anthony Hayes says he's going to miss Chavez. A lot of people are going to miss Chavez. Let me see. Sorry, guys. A lot of you guys are being active tonight. It's because the trade deadline has been so exciting today, so I appreciate it. Corey Carter says we can't play Contreras at DH because if you move him to catcher, then the pitcher has to hit. Sure, but at the same time, I mean, he's been killing the ball. And look, I think we have the best catch tandem in baseball offensively. Between him and d'Arnaud, I really do. I think ultimately I think you can run that risk a bit. You don't have to do it all the time. But I like Ozuna at DH too. You don't have to have Contreras at DH all the time. Corey Carter also says that Kirby Yates is throwing and he expects him to be up next week. I hope so. If we can add another righty, and that's something that, if the Braves don't do anything, else, rather, I look at and go, okay, maybe they say right now, they say, okay, we're going to hold off right now because we got Kirby Yates coming back next week. Maybe Kirby Yates isn't ready at all. I don't know. But what we do know is he's in the conversation. Mike Soroka in the conversation. So I don't know. Caleb says Snit said he saw Ozzy at a charity event. During the event, he was walking in a boot, but he saw him at other times without the boot on. Yeah, I mean, what do you take away from that, though? I read that article. It's hard to know, really, where Ozzy is. How can he play? Boot is boot is what it is, but I don't know that, I don't know that it's necessarily the case. Hey, I just got an interesting fact from my father, who's sitting in the other room. Tonight is not only Eddie Rosario bobblehead night, maybe that gets him going, but fun fact, Jesse Chavez has been traded 10 times in his career. That is the most all time. So just something to chew on there. Jesse Chavez is officially the most traded player ever. And I don't think it's, I think he is the most utility pitcher I've ever seen. So that kind of fits him. DP says Ozzy should be playing, doesn't matter if he's hurt. Well, Jeb says, Tyler, what do you think of a partial six-man rotation with Strider going to the pen and starting some to limit innings? It's hard to say consistently whether or not that'll work. I personally don't love it because I'm going to say this because personally I think starters need to stay on their 5-day, cycle. And I think that they prefer to do that. Strider's a little bit of a different breed, but I think they're going to keep him as a starter as long as they possibly can until they start seeing some wear and tear. And they could see that later in the year. They may give him, some time off. I think what you could see is a 6-man rotation with Strider going to the pen in the postseason alongside some others. And when I say going to the pen, I don't mean for one inning. Now, Strider could be a closer. But Strider, I think, could just be a weapon, and come out and shut it down when needed. I think that's his strength and that's what he's good at, which he's a fundamental bullpen piece, but he's also been a very good starter, so it's hard to tell. Let's see. A lot of you guys are being active tonight. Steve Smith says, is the Iglesias guy from the Angels any good? I wish I could show you his stats right now, but I can't. Iglesias has a 4.04 ERA, which is going to turn a lot of you guys off. He is on a large deal that the Braves are going to have to absorb. But what I would tell you is that last year he finished the year with a 2.57 ERA. I'm curious if he had a better second half or first half. Maybe that'll give you some indication. What I can tell you is this. He's been good in the past. I don't know what he's going to be for the next 3, but he could be very good. He could be mediocre. What I think the Braves needed was a right-handed pitcher. I think they had that in their mind that they wanted a right-handed pitcher, and they didn't want to overpay. And when you get a guy like David Robertson, especially when you're competing with the Phillies, you might have to pay a little more. When you get a guy like Anthony Bass, who's now going to the Blue Jays, you might have to pay a little more. So all of that is worth considering. Raisel Iglesias, I guarantee you, wasn't nearly as a talking piece as those guys were. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I think this has been a okay trade deadline, but it hasn't been near as good as it was last year. But at the same time, I think this is a solid trade deadline. It's not going to be, it's not going to be a big, it's not going to be a big deadline or as big of a deadline as it was last year, but I still think it was a very solid pickup by the Braves to get Raisel Iglesias late, to get Odorizzi yesterday, to get all the guys they got yesterday were I think solid. A-Ray, solid depth piece. Robbie Grossman, who's killing lefties. They're just adding additional pieces. They're not adding the team, which I think the Padres basically added a second team to their roster, which I think is a bit overkill. But it is what it is. I would grade it, a 7 out of 10 maybe. I don't think it, I would have liked to have gotten another reliever. And I don't mean instead of Rysel, but I just mean another, guy that was solid. And the end of the day, a lot of people are going to be upset about Tucker Davidson. I think this gives him the opportunity to play. I think it gives him, the ability to be on a team that's going to let him play in the major league level. I mean, the guy pitched a World Series game and he's been in the minors all year long. So that's kind of the problem with the Braves right now is that it's kind of the minor league system is stopped up. Look at Michael Harris. Michael Harris never spent a day in AAA because his spot was taken by Drew Waters at the time, right? And I'm not saying that that's single-handedly why, but that's where our farm. We got to start weeding out the farm system. Who's going to be a Brave? Who's not? And frankly, move on. Let's see what we got here with Rysel Iglesias. I'm looking at Rysel Iglesias fan graphs. I'm trying to find out what his splits were first half and second half, but I can't really find anything. And then I'm going to start answering questions here in just a second. Let's see. Well, I guess I can't see it. My computer's acting crazy today, you guys. Okay. Doing my best. Rysel Iglesias at the end of the day, what you need to know is he got a 4.04 ERA, had a 2.57 ERA last year, but I think it could be better. But at the same time, who really knows? Well, all right, I'm giving up on that. Let's talk about what you guys want to talk about. You guys are very active tonight. I really do appreciate it. You guys don't know how much that helps the channel. We do have a lot of intentions to grow this channel, by the way. We are not just here to continue to do the same old thing. So if you have an idea for the channel, hit me up. You guys know where to find me. The social media is in the link down below. If you guys have just an idea that you want to put out there, I'll take it. That being said, we do have a lot of plans to grow this channel. Before we go any further, I wanted to, while I still got a lot of you guys in here, I wanted to promote this interview with Cole Phillips, who is the second-round pick of the Braves this year out of Bernie, Texas. This guy is an absolute stud. He's 19 years old, can throw 100 miles an hour. Just had Tommy John surgery this year, but he's got a great head on his shoulders. If you want to meet him, a great way to do it is to go watch that interview. It is on the channel right now. Cole Phillips interview, again, right now on the channel. Go check it out. Let's see what you guys are talking about. A lot of you guys are being active in the chat. We're probably going to wrap it up soon. I'm trying to keep monitoring best I can. I think we're probably about wrapped up. 36 minutes past the deadline. I don't think we're going to need. I don't think we're going to need anything else. Okay. What we do have is this. Justin Toscano, a guy that I follow for a lot of updates, basically said that Alex Anthopoulos stated that the Iglesias trade developed so late that he was worried it wouldn't go through in time. So that's something to look at. But this is a blockbuster trade in a lot of ways because this is two major prospects. And when I look at the Braves bullpen, personally, I look at Kenley Jansen, I look at Kirby Yates, and now I look at I look at Rysel Iglesias. We have three closers. And Tyler Matzik could be a closer. So, I look at a very good pen, and I look at an improved team overall. We're going to have to see how it ages. We're going to see, we're going to have to see what happens, but, that is what it is. The Braves will be playing the Phillies, I think, in about an hour or so, so make sure you watch that tonight. We're going to wrap it up. Oren Griswold asked a pretty good question, so I'll answer it. He says, how about some in-game chats like you did for the Home Run Derby? I plan to do that. I plan to save that for the postseason, though, and I'll tell you why. We're upgrading the set in a lot of different ways. Essentially, I'm moving out. So when that happens, we'll have a little bit more of an ability to do that better. I like doing it for the Home Run Derby. I was going to watch the Derby anyway. I don't mind watching it with you guys. But when the postseason is around, we will do that. We'll have in-game simulation from ESPN, and I'll really be able to do that well. Right now, I'm a little bit limited in my setup to do that, but yeah, we're looking forward to doing that for the postseason, and hopefully you guys will join. but it did really well in the home run derby. I was genuinely surprised that it did so well during the home run derby. So yeah, that was a nice surprise, and I'm not mad about it at all. But yeah, that was phenomenal, and we plan to do more for sure. Philip Nichols, once Tyler gets back to full strength, he definitely could close, has the right attitude to do it. Yeah, I think so too. I don't think he will be because you have guys with so much experience closing. I think Kirby Yates could, be a sneak, could sneak his way into the closer role if he comes in healthy, but it's not necessarily going to happen. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Final thoughts on the trade deadline. I wish I had a graphic with all of them, but I don't. This is going into today. Final thoughts on the trade deadline. I think it's a solid deadline. I think this is a solid group of trades that do improve the team, and they put the focus at the major league level. They're not focused on the minors anymore. Trey Harris at one time was a guy that raised a lot of eyebrows. He was a 300 hitter. He had power. He's fallen. His stock has fallen. They made the trade for A-Ray, who can help the team now. Trey Harris can't do that. Chris Anglin for Robbie Grossman. Chris Anglin can't help the team now, but Robbie Grossman could. Will Smith for Jake Odorizzi. This was we needed to improve the pen. Will Smith was, not having his best year. I think we all agree. And we got Raisel Iglesias for multiple years, and we're going to have to absorb that contract. But at the end of the day, we did improve the pen, I think, and we got a starter out of this. So, it's not exactly perfect. It's not exactly the trade deadline that I drew up, but I think this is a solid deadline. I think it's a good deadline, and I think Alex Anthopoulos still deserves some credit. That being said, don't overlook what we have within already. I mentioned Kirby Yates. I mentioned Mike Soroka, the guys coming back from injury. Ozzie Albies as well. All those guys coming back from injury. Don't overlook them, but also don't overlook the guys we got locked up. Most notably, the one we locked up this week, Austin Riley. The guys that we've yet to lock up, Dansby Swanson. But the guys that we've locked up, man, we got them for so long. We're talking Kyle Wright. We're talking Michael Harris, Spencer Strider, Austin Riley, Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies. We got like 7 out of 9 out of the starting lineup signed until 2027 at least. So that's what's important here is the core. The trade deadline has never really been intended to flip, an entire team around. And that's what you're starting to see these days, especially by the Padres today. And we saw a little bit of that last year for the Braves. But we needed that last year. That was a need. This year it wasn't a need. It would have been nice, but I think to some degree the Braves are probably betting on their prospects, especially one named Vaughn Grissom. They're not going to let go of Spencer Strider. They're not going to let go of Michael Harris. I just think that, their time is now, and we have the pieces to make a good team. If Acuna, Rosario, and Ozuna could perform to the level of the back of their baseball cards, we wouldn't be having a discussion about what the Braves didn't do at the deadline. So that's something to keep in mind. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Little J. Thank you, Fraymore. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Garrett, Philip, and Corey. I really do appreciate all you guys tuning in tonight. Thank you so much to all you guys out there. Do me a favor, on your way out, like the video so this gets out there to Braves country. I really would appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I will catch you later right here at On Deck.